The Pentagon has ordered the National Guard to create what's known as quick reaction forces in every state and U.S. territory that are trained to respond to riots and civil unrest within the United States. According to the Pentagon directives, as many as 500 soldiers in each state or territory will be assigned to deploy on short notice and receive non-lethal training in crowd control, handling of detainees, and the use of batons, stun guns, as well as body shields. The news came the very same day that President Trump said courts will not stop him from using troops against U.S. citizens. Trump said so while talking to reporters aboard Air Force One.
What did you say last night when you said you were prepared to send more than the National Guard into American cities?
Sure, I would. I would do that if it was necessary. You know, if I want to enact a certain act, I'm allowed to do it routinely, and I'd be allowed to do whatever I want. But we haven't chosen to do that because we're doing very well without it. But I'd be allowed to do that, you understand? And the courts wouldn't get involved, nobody would get involved, and I could send the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, I could send anybody I wanted.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the MeidasTouch Network. We've been sounding the alarm here for months about the increasing militarization of America's streets. This is a problem that goes back decades, I get that, but the Trump regime, I am convinced, has made a decision to make armed soldiers patrolling our cities feel normal. It is not normal. This is what happens in authoritarian regimes that are afraid of their own people. This regime's opening gambit was, of course, the deployment of ICE and now CBP into LA, DC, and Chicago. Stephen Miller and his henchmen are intentionally targeting blue cities with the aim of provoking the kind of conflict that will justify deployments of National Guard and even active duty units. We saw that in LA already with the deployment of U.S. Marines, and we've seen National Guard units in DC and elsewhere. There is a strategy here, and it isn't just about immigration. It's about conditioning the public to accept this military presence in our communities. It's also about, and this is a critical point, it's about equating Trump's regime protection force, ICE, with the military, especially the National Guard. But they are not the same. The National Guard, as imperfect as it is, has literally a centuries-long tradition of faithfulness to the Constitution. Its culture reinforces that. ICE has neither. It lacks the reflexive devotion to the Constitution, and its culture, as we've seen in video after video, is one that rewards brutality. The last line of defense against Trump's desire to use our military against us may well be those blue state governors who, for now at least, still retain control over their state guards. I wanted to talk to an old friend and fellow Navy vet now running for lieutenant governor in California. Josh Fryday is, in fact, the only veteran running for statewide office in California this cycle. And he has a lot to say about the role of states like his in holding the line against Trump. Here's our conversation. Welcome to the Ken Harbaugh Show. My guest today is Josh Fryday, California's Chief Service Officer, a Navy veteran, former JAG, now running for lieutenant governor of the state. Josh, I remember when you announced, I remember some of our early conversations about the kinds of things you were going to prioritize. Did you ever imagine that National Guard deployments against your fellow citizens, squaring off against the citizens of LA, potentially San Francisco, that story is still developing. Did you ever think that would be in your list of concerns as a potential incoming lieutenant governor?
I don't think that we thought that the president would overreach in the way he has. So no, it was not something that we took seriously. And now it's something that those of us in California who have been part of these, have been watching these deployments, who are dealing with the consequences of them and are looking at what could be coming in the future. It's something we wake up and think about every single day because the threat is real.
You have been incredibly outspoken about highlighting that threat, not just the immediacy of it, but the possible strategy, the strategy that I worry the Trump regime is implementing as they work backwards from the 2026 elections, which they're going to get spanked in, right? They just know it. They see the writing on the wall. They are doing everything they can to cheat at the ballot box, but that might even involve the kind of intimidation that you're warning about. In a recent Instagram post, you said they are marching right towards our elections. What did you mean by that?
Well, I'll just tell you what I saw, Ken. When I was the only state official that had the chance to go to the base that was set up after 4,000 of our National Guards men and women were federalized in Los Angeles to meet and get briefed by the leadership, but also to talk to the troops to see how they're doing. What I saw was what you and I would have seen in Afghanistan or in any base around the country. They set up in very short order a full military operation outside of Los Angeles. And it was so clear to me then that if they could do it there, they could do it anywhere, and that they were going to try to. And since then, we've seen DC, we've seen them try in Chicago, in Portland, and now we have these conversations about San Francisco. So it's very clear that they're testing what they can get away with. They're testing what will become normalized, what we as American citizens will come to accept, what the courts will come to accept. And I just feel like we cannot be naive right now. We have to be very sober about what they're doing and understand that they're testing what they can get away with. And I think right through our elections this November.
Hey everyone, it's Ken. Quick break here to say thanks for watching and a huge shout out to everyone who supported my most recent reporting trip to Ukraine. I hope you followed the updates on Substack. I reported from Chernobyl, from Kyiv and Odessa, and from frontline positions alongside some of the bravest people I have ever met. If you haven't yet signed up for my Substack, please check it out. It's free to join. The link's below. Thanks. I took note when you visited that National Guard deployment site because what really stood out to me, and I really appreciate your observations about what they appear to be gearing up for, but in your conversations with those troops, it was reported in the media at the time, you weren't blaming them. You weren't pointing the finger at the guardsmen and saying, how dare you? This is a betrayal of your oath. First of all, it's not. We're not there yet. There is a lot of debate about the legality of these orders still, but you're not blaming the guardsmen. Can you talk to us about the importance of maintaining that tie for as long as we can?
It's such an important point, and it's honestly what concerns me and disturbs me and upsets me so much about what this administration is doing, because our National Guard plays a really critical role in our society. These are our neighbors. These are teachers. These are police officers. These are firefighters. These are people who stepped up to serve their community, to protect us, to keep us safe. And I've had a chance in this role that I have, this cabinet role, the governor, to work side by side with our guard to do things like maintain our food banks, keep our food banks operational during times of need, during COVID and other disasters. They're there for us when a natural disaster hits. The Guard plays a really important role. And what the administration is doing now is playing politics with those who have stepped up to serve California. And that pisses me off. And it pisses me off. And it also concerns me because they're willing to use our military for political reasons. And that's not, you and I both know that's not what our military is for. It's why we have laws saying the military should not be used for domestic policing for this very reason. And he's trying to use our National Guard and the men and women that serve in our National Guard and do an incredible job doing that. He wants to use them as political props. And it's upsetting to me.
I feel like he is also, and certainly the people around him are also intentionally trying to damage or sever that emotional bond that communities have with their National Guard. And look, I'll be the first to admit the National Guard hasn't always been perfect. It has a long history. Any institution that goes back literally to the nation's founding is going to have dark moments. But in most people's thinking, in California especially, the National Guard is who showed up after the Palisades fires, during the Palisades fires. The National Guard is who shows up in the Carolinas after hurricanes. The National Guard is there when we need them most. And the way they're being deployed in these seemingly intentionally provocative scenarios tells me that the administration, the DOD under Hegseth in particular, wants nothing more than to create that friction, that division between the National Guard and the community it exists to support and defend.
That's right. They're trying to create chaos. They're trying to create fear and anxiety, and they're using the military to do that. And it's concerning. And I will be the first to suggest that the National Guard plays a really important role. During COVID, I got put in charge of the food task force by the governor to keep food banks operational throughout California. The first thing I did was to recommend to him that we deploy the National Guard to keep our food banks operational, which we did. And today we ended up serving hundreds of millions of meals to people in need. I recommended that after the Palisades fire, that we deploy the Guard to protect our neighborhoods. The Guard plays a critical role. What they are doing and what they're suggesting with the Guard and what they've done in LA and what they might be considering in other places around our state has nothing to do with public safety. Let's be clear about that. It has nothing to do with keeping our people safe. And you're right. The concern about that is people are going to lose trust. People are going to become fearful. Instead of welcoming the Guard as they did when we went into the food banks to serve our communities in need, now there's fear around the Guard. And that doesn't help anybody. That doesn't make us safer. That makes us less safe. So I've been very clear about that what this administration is doing with the Guard has nothing to do with public safety, which we should all be concerned about. And it's a problem, and we got to stand up to it.
We've got some clips of those deployments of the National Guard helping with food distribution and that kind of thing. I want to roll this ad and get your reaction to it. Since America's founding, our National Guard has stood the watch in peace and war, in storms and strife, in the communities we call home. They look like us because they are us. Your National Guardsmen are not just your protectors. They are your sons, your daughters, your neighbors. They are not this. There is a reason our Guardsmen wear their names over their hearts. There is a reason they do not hide their faces, because, unlike ICE, America's National Guard serves with pride, with honor. This is your National Guard. And this is ICE. Know the difference. This ad, I think, captures a very critical distinction that we're trying to drive home here at the network that I know many veterans groups are working hard on. And that is the difference between the military and the National Guard in particular, which is drawn from the communities in which it serves, and ICE, which might nominally swear the same oath that National Guardsmen do, but doesn't behave like it has any loyalty to that oath. It certainly doesn't have that literally centuries-long tradition of fidelity to the Constitution. ICE is becoming, and you see this on the streets of California, it feels like it's becoming a regime protection organization. How do you feel about the importance of differentiating between the National Guard, which we respect and love, and ICE, which is doing enormous damage?
We have got to make this distinction. And it's part of what's so dangerous about what they're doing by combining the immigration enforcement that ICE does with the now deployment of the Guard as they're attempting to do around the country. So I'm so glad you're making the distinction. And here's to me what the distinction is. The Guard are made up of our neighbors. They're made up of teachers and police officers and people in our community who have stepped up to protect our community. And they wear the military uniform. And that means something. And people know that that's about protection. What these ICE raids that we're seeing throughout our community is not about protection. It's about instilling fear. Why else would they be wearing masks? Why else would they be in unmarked cars? They're going to places to instill nothing but fear and anxiety. And it's working. And it's scary. And we have to be able to make the distinction, which is also why we have to stand up and say, it is not okay to be deploying our military alongside these kinds of missions. That's not their role. It's not appropriate. It's not allowed by the Constitution. And Ken, I want to make this point because I think this is so critical, and it's why I've always appreciated your leadership. This is why our party has got to be willing to elect Democrats that have worn the military uniform. that have the credibility and the understanding to make this distinction and to say to the American people that the military serves a key role and it's there to protect you. We should stand up for that. And what the administration is trying to do with ICE is something entirely different. And we need to be very clear about that.
Well, Josh, it's been great having you. It's reassuring to know that folks like you are running in critical states like California. Where can more people learn about the election?
Would love for you to go to joshfryday.com today to learn more, to learn how you can get involved. And would also love any veteran listening to this to join us, to sign on to a petition that I've started to organize veterans around California to be ready for when the National Guard, if and when the National Guard comes, and for anyone who knows a veteran to send them our link, joshfryday.com, so that we can be ready, we can protect our communities, and we can continue to protect our Constitution.
Thanks, Josh. Great having you.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.